Guys, I'm going to do my first real-time video. This is front brakes on a GMC Envoy 2007, not the Denali edition. So I got the lug nuts loose, 19mm. Let's get cracking. First thing I want to do is get these bolts loose on the back of the caliper. Looks like 13 mil. I'm going to take a big screwdriver in between the peak hole and the caliper. Kind of press that caliper in a little bit so this caliper comes off easy. Two bolts. Press that caliper back so it came off easy. Now we got two bolts in the back of the caliper mounting bracket. Look like 18mm. Yep, 18. If your brake hose looks weak, don't let it hang. Could be replacing a brake hose today. Bracket's loose. Snag these pads out of here. And our rotor is loose. That's good news. Don't have to hammer on it to get it off. It's pretty easy. The worst part is cleaning the bracket and pressing the pistons in, I guess. I'm going to use the old brake pad, press these pistons in. You could use all kinds of stuff to press pistons in. Big old jaws. This is a cheap turn back tool. I got a heavy duty turn back tool. I usually use this one if the pistons are free. See how well this goes. Just gonna hold that piston in place with the tool. Squish this piston in. With my big jaws. There we go, that was nice and easy. I like it when they're not stiff. Then a dual piston. So if you press one in, it can press the other one out. That's why I'm using this tool to keep the piston from coming out, the second piston. All right, got that piston locked in. If your pistons are really tight, you can try opening the bleeder valve, opening the cap on the reservoir. That might help. If it doesn't, pistons might be rusty inside that caliper. I've taken them out and cleaned them before. It's easier just to replace the caliper when they're that bad. You gotta be careful using those jaws. A lot of pistons are not made of metal. You can crack them. They're like a ceramic. Make sure you check that before you do brakes. Don't be cracking your pistons. The ears are really clean, so I'm not going to clean those off at all. We're going to put some brake lubricant. I use Silglide, it's the best. Where these ears are going to contact the new pad, that'll help it not squeal in the future, help it not rust up. Going to put it on the edge of the piston that touches the pad as well. Now we're going to do something that a lot of people don't know about or don't do, but it makes a huge difference. See if we can get that right. There we go. I always buy premium pads with new hardware. So we're going to pop these out. Rust builds up in these ears. You want to use a wire brush, wire wheel. I like my Dremel tool. It's got a real soft grinding tip on it. And knock the rust out. It's something a lot of people don't do. That hardware will get stiff if there's rust built up in there, and it'll lock your pads up. You got a little rubber bushing on this one. Make sure you put it back in the same spot in the mounting bracket. These are pretty clean, not too bad. I'm gonna wire wheel them real quick. Or just wipe the grease off. They don't even need a wire wheeling. These are in beautiful condition. You don't run into that very much in Michigan. Wipe the old grease off, get your brake lubricant. Give a good amount to these pens. Put a little bit in the boots. We'll put them back in. Now we're going to put some grease where the hardware sits. Keep that from rusting and expanding in the future, which will make your brake pads lock in place. It will make the inner or outer wear faster, decrease the life. All right, so we're all greased up everywhere. I like to use Evolution Ceramic or Wagner Perfect Stop Ceramic. Great pads. I don't use any of that cheap do our last crap. Make sure there's not a difference between the hardware. Some vehicles there are. The top or bottom will be different. These are all tangled up with each other. These have these little spring tabs on them, which makes it a little harder to put the brakes back on, but it's not a big deal. We'll lock our new hardware in. We're going to put grease where the ear of the brake pad touches the hardware. It's time to grab our new rotor out of the package. We'll come back over here. Got a rotor on. There's hold down bolts on this rotor, but they're missing. So that's all good. Make sure you line them up if you still got your hardware. Rotor on first, we're gonna put the mounting bracket on. The mounting bracket won't line up if your rotor isn't straight. Well, it'll be hard to start. So this is all real time. About how long it should take you if you're cruising. Now we're ready for some pads. Alright. Look at your old pads. Where'd those old pads go? I don't know. There's a squealer tab on 2 of these brake pads. The squealer tab's usually going to go top, inside. It's where it wears out, tends to wear out the fastest, just slightly. So it'll squeal before anything else. Most vehicles. We'll put a little extra grease just on the ears where they contact that hardware. And these pads will not want to stay in there because of those tabs. Usually the hardest part is getting the inside one in there. Sometimes it's easier to put the brake pads on first. Before you put the mounting bracket on. I'm trying to put these pads on without bending the hardware inward towards the rotor. It is not cooperating. Come There. Oh, I thought I had it. These ears will not go in easily if there's built up rust. Sucker. As soon as I get one side in, the other side pops off. There we go. Finally got it in there. Where it belongs. There's little clips in the hardware that keep the pad from coming too far out. And there's the spring that keeps pressure to make it push out. A little extra grease on the ears. Start these ones at a little bit of an angle to get past the big clip. Go flatten your rotor up. These pads are ready to go. Now they are getting pressed out by that spring on the hardware. So you might have to take the back of the caliper against the back pad and push the front pad in. And it sets in its groove. Then you got to press these sliders inward. And make sure they're tilted the right way. They should be almost horizontal. There's flat spots on the caliper ear that they go in. Now these bolts will not want to start if your rotor isn't square, if your caliper isn't square. You might have to move your caliper around, jiggle a little bit. We got that one started. This one started. A lot of people don't grease the hardware, the sliders, the caliper, the ears, the pads in the proper locations, and that will cause premature brake pad wear. You might find yourself getting 15, 20, 30,000 miles out of a set of brake pads. You should be getting more. You should be getting 50, 70,000 miles if you're doing it right. Not driving crazy. There we go. This is all done. That's real time. Doing one side. Looks like we did 18 minutes. That's with me talking. So before you put your tire back on, and make sure you pump your brakes beforehand. Prime that caliper onto the pads, else you're gonna have no brakes when you take off. Make sure you give it, 5 to 10 pumps. Make sure those brakes are tightening up. That's gonna do it.